We begin with Madeline Rivera with the latest on that horrific attack in Michigan. Maddie.
Good morning, guys. That's right. Local police say they're working around the clock trying to find more bodies because, unfortunately, as of last night, there were some people still unaccounted for. The attack happened yesterday morning at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan. Hundreds of people were inside worshiping when police say the gunman rammed his car into the front doors. Authorities say he got out of the car and started shooting before officers arrived and exchanged fire with him, killing him. Police say the gunman deliberately set the church on fire. It was engulfed in flames for a couple of hours, and unfortunately, it is a total loss. In addition to the shooting and fire, Michigan State Police say authorities were handling reports of bomb threats in the area after the incident.
I can confirm at this time that the FBI is now leading the investigation and is investigating this as an act of targeted violence.
We received 911 calls about bomb threats or other indications that there was a bomb.
Targeted violence? It's a retarded statement. Maybe terrorism, you think? I don't know what the hell that means, targeted violence. I get really, stuff like that really bothers me. Not sure exactly what, I mean, how is it not terrorism? I mean, I guess maybe they don't have the motive for that yet, but yeah, I just don't like that targeted violence. That's a stupid statement. I don't know why I get caught up
at a different location. Some of them were churches, and we responded and cleared those locations.
I'd also like to acknowledge the heroism of not only the first responders, but the people who were inside that church at the time. They were shielding the children who were also present within the church, moving them to safety. Just hundreds of people just practicing their faith.
Police have identified the suspect as 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford from Burton, Michigan, about 10 minutes from Grand Blanc. Investigators are executing search warrants at his home. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer says violence in a place of worship is unacceptable. She's ordered flags across the state to be lowered to half-staff to honor the victims. Carly and Todd.
Madeline Rivera, thank you. With that, let us bring in former Assistant FBI Director Chris Swecker. Chris, are you hearing anything from your sources as to motive in an attack that you heard a member of the FBI call targeted violence?
No, but I'll tell you this. You can tell the tip-off is that the FBI has taken the lead. That means they're treating this as either a hate crime or an act of domestic terrorism. Targeted violence means targeted at someone or a group of people in an effort to intimidate or inflict violence in the furtherance of social change or political change. I mean, it's a convoluted explanation, but it's either domestic terrorism or hate crime. Regardless, that's, you know, that they have already actually attributed a motive to this individual already. So they must know quite a bit about him, his writings, his postings, interviews with his friends and family, his social circle, you know, anything that might have been in his car or his pockets. I think the investigation is deep into it at this point with regard to motive.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. How does the FBI, you mentioned some of the items there, but how do they begin really to piece together the motive, especially that focus on his time as a Marine? Because you certainly go to the mental health consequences of serving in our military that so many men and women encounter when they come back home.
Yeah, I've done some work for the military in this regard at Fort Hood, and you know the military struggles with this. You know, mental health is a big issue. Obviously, they have quite a few, disproportionate number of suicides. You know, this wasn't the only Marine veteran that committed violence over the last few days. We had one here in North Carolina at a place that I frequent, a bar restaurant in Southport, North Carolina. Marine veteran. Both of them had mental issues. Both of them had done a GoFundMe page very recently before the shooting to try to raise funds. One for the boat that he used to commit the shooting, the other one for his sick child. So, you know, this is a situation of you find a manufactured grievance, if you will, and then a whole lot of stimulus from people either on the internet or even politicians, irresponsible politicians. We all know who they are. You know, they're talking about Nazis and anarchists and existential threats. You know, they need to crawl back into their dark places. These people are out there. That has to be taken into account.
I did a video recently, and I kind of did a little bit of I don't want to call it a deep dive, but just an analysis as to if you guys are familiar with what MK Ultra is, or the federal government would say was, but it was a program that MK stands for mind control, and it got individuals to either to do I forget, like a Manchurian candidate, basically like you're an assassin but you don't know it. And I was just parsing the data and just asking Grok a couple of questions where if the algorithm that we all are a flood in would act as an MK Ultra, and it was controlled by a bad actor in attempting to get people to commit acts of violence / murder, what would be the number of people that it could get to commit like murder? And Grok thought for quite a while and came back with a massive, very long answer. But ultimately, in the end, it stated that if the algorithms were controlled by a bad actor and they were used as an MK Ultra fashion, it could get, I believe it was something around a couple of thousand, I think it said 17,000 people in a country of 350 million people to possibly commit murder or violence. That's quite a few people. So, not to say that, that our devices and stuff like that are driving us to murder, but if a certain subgroup of the population has already mental illness, which we are obviously, we're probably more mentally ill than the average countries. All the SSRIs that we take, a lot of the side effects are of those SSRIs. Some are depression, some are suicidal tendencies, some are homicidal tendencies. That is one of the side effects of the medication that a lot of people are on. We need to do a deep dive on this and find out if the medications that we're taking in conjunction with the dripping of our algorithm, right? The fact that it's constantly feeding us what we want to see, and it's affirming our beliefs, right? Because it wants you to continue to watch. It's not gonna give you something that is going to be grotesque and be disgusted by you, because you're not going to watch it. You're not going to engage. You're going to either turn it off or you're going to go to something else. You're going to keep going until you get something that affirms you, something that makes you engaged, that feels good, right? You want to watch it. Some people like really violent things, right? And they, if they see a kitty cat video, they swipe past it, and they see a guy getting his head blown off and they watch that, and they can keep consuming that, and it keeps feeding this insanity. And if you're having that in conjunction with all these drugs, what does that do to people? What does that do to the small subset of people that are extremely susceptible to whether it's mental illness, whether it's violence, whether it's whatever? It's just a really bad place that we're in. Just looking at who was the Unabomber, Kaczynski. That was one of the things. I'm not saying that he was great or whatever. I'm just saying, if you listen to what he was saying, he was just saying that this was going to be our downfall, that this was going to be what ultimately ruins us all, is this tech, because it can be utilized in really dark ways. And again, you don't have to get the majority of people that are watching, whether it's politics or cute cat videos. 99.9% of the people, it's just going to be going with the flow. They're going to watch their videos. They're going to go to work. They're going to disappear in their music or whatever, and they're just going to be another cog, another gear, just part of the machine. But every now and again, you're going to get that outlier that takes this stuff and does something terrible, horrible, tragic, murder, just total destruction. We got to take a look and see what the hell's going on. I think that might be what it is, because you're never going to have. We're past the point where, or maybe not, but we're past the point where foreign actors need to just pay somebody to do something nefarious, right? I think we can all kind of see that. There's not going to be any more like, hey, I want this guy taken care of. Here's 10 grand, do what you got to do. That's very, very local level, small time thing. When you're either a foreign actor or a domestic actor that is extremely wealthy and powerful, I think that feeding information that way and getting those crazies to do things to disrupt society, it's happened forever. It's happened since the beginning of time. But I think it's just, maybe we see it more, but also I think it's also spurred about more intently because of our consumption habits. If you guys are still here, please hit the subscribe button. Let me see what else this guy has.
When you start firing off your mouth,
And to be clear, Chris, the shooting in North Carolina, Fox News has not yet confirmed that that individual was a Marine, but we're working to do that and get that to our viewers. Finally, with these recent attacks on churches, do we now need to harden places of worship like we do many schools?
Unfortunately, yes. When I do school security assessments, I tell them that your first line of defense, the gold standard, is an armed off-duty police officer, preferably, or a private security guard, outside in a marked patrol unit, sitting, or at least with a marked patrol unit nearby. It's just your first line of defense. You have to have it. Among other things, access controls, security cameras, and your clergy and your deacons and your ushers all need to have some, need to be on the looking out for suspicious activities. There's sort of your ground radar, if you will, your eyes and ears. And then, of course, the parishioners and the family, when the red flags are raised, they need to tell somebody. In these cases, there usually are red flags going off or red flags being shown, red lights. There's something. They're in distress, and they're about to go off.
It's so sad that it has come to this, because all people want to do when they go into a house of worship is have some time alone with the Lord. Them, their thoughts, and the Lord. And the fact that they need to think about this is horrific. Chris White.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's where we are. That is where we are. And that's where we're going to be for quite a while. If you look at, like synagogues in the city, they have, for years now, they're locked down. Nobody's getting into a synagogue in the city. That's not supposed to be there. And that's kind of what all of these, institutions need to do. They're operating on a tax exemption thing. If you got to go to the people and say, listen, we got to pay for some security, like it has to get done, or maybe somebody can volunteer security. I don't know, but it needs to be secure. Everything needs to be secure. Schools need to be more secure. Houses of worship need to be more secure, and you in your home should also be secure. I'm always carrying. Only time I'm not carrying it, I don't even like to say that, but is when I'm taking a shower. That's about it. I'm always carrying, because I just never want it to be that situation where if ever the day happens, if I don't have it, I'm going to be pretty pissed at myself. So make sure you protect yourself. Make sure you protect your family. See if people in their houses of worship will volunteer. If you guys can't afford security, I'm sure there can be people that would happy to be carrying while they go to church. I don't see an issue with that. But yeah, we can all figure this out. But we all need to try to keep ourselves safe. Guys, thanks a lot for joining me. 6283Talk on the X is the X account if you wish to follow me there. Please hit the subscribe button. It does me a lot of good. A small channel trying to grow. I am John Soto. I'll see you again in the next video. Take care, guys.